YouTube, welcome back to the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm your host, John Miro, back with some big news. Happy Memorial Day for those of you that have served and or have either had a family member or friend who have served. Thank you so much. We are represented in the great red, white, and blue. We've got the blue on to represent our great nation and represent and remember and honor all those that have served. Guys, what a wonderful night. If you're in the Tennessee area, talking about storms from last night, it was literally a tornado warning all the way to 5 a.m. I don't know how many of you guys are near this area, but we're under tornado watch, and especially in the Kentucky area, Tennessee area, and this is something that we definitely want to just thankful for a safe night and that things are looking good. So we've got some big news, guys, for you, and we really wanted to update you on some updated information on things happening and big things that you have to see it to believe it. See things for yourself, guys. We've got some big news. Lizette, thank you so much for tuning in. Hello from Kudlow, CA, Kings of the Valley of Egypt. Thank you so much for tuning in. Guys, we've got a ton of great news for you tonight. We appreciate your love and support. Make sure, if you haven't already, to hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't joined the family. Our family is growing every single day, and you definitely want to jump in on that. Definitely, there's a lot of things that we saw last night to today that we're updating you guys on, and a lot of big things are happening, and we want to make sure that we keep you updated on everything. So as we're diving into it, guys, let's tune in to see what it's all about, because there's some big things that are actually happening.
Well, moving on now, former President Trump making a push to court voters outside of the Republican Party 2 days after his rally in the deep blue Bronx. He made his pitch Saturday to the Libertarian Party's national convention in Washington.
Combine with us in a partnership. We're asking that of the Libertarians. We must work together. Combine with us. You have to combine with us. Vote for me, because the Libertarians want to vote for me, and most of them will. And it's very important, because we have to get rid of the worst president in history, and together we will.
Political playbook calling it Trump's everything, everywhere, all at once strategy, but is it working? Here to weigh in, Max Keelan, principal of the Vogel Group, and Kevin Schroff, the Institute for Education Senior Advisor. Matt, I want to start with you, and the former president saying that he's going to get the majority of the libertarian vote. You know, I was over at their convention. They've got their strong convictions, and I don't necessarily know if the former president necessarily fits with all of them. What do you take?
Well, I think just the fact that he was there competing for those votes shows he's playing offense. If you look across the electoral map, really, there's not a state where Joe Biden isn't playing defense on the top toss-up states. So Donald Trump's going into deep blue territory in the Bronx. He's out to Minnesota this past week, or this upcoming week, and he's going to the Libertarian Convention, trying to win votes, trying to play offense. In a campaign, when you're playing offense, you're winning. When you're playing defense, you're losing. Joe Biden plays defense every day.
Kevin, what about that? You know, you had the former president in the Bronx, wasn't exactly going to a Yankee game there. He held a rally. And look, it's New York. And the Siena College poll shows he's still down 9 percentage points there. But that is a major change from losing the state by 22 less than 4 years ago. What's your take?
Well, if my colleague means he's playing offense by he's going and offending people, he certainly did that at the Libertarian Convention, you know, calling them out for only getting 3% of the vote, getting booed and heckled, and ultimately not even seeking the nomination from them. Same in the Bronx, you know, there were protesters there. Those that did show up, it wasn't many people, but some are reporting that they weren't even from the area. Obviously, this is a pretty tight shot we're looking at, but there weren't that many people that showed up. So it doesn't seem like it's working. And then with people that are persuadable, like swing voters in Wisconsin, they don't like what Trump has done, blowing up the bipartisan border deal. So I think everything, everywhere, all at once works, but only if you're likable and telling people what they want to hear and what you'll do for them.
So we've seen in polling, Matt, a real erosion among the base of what the Biden coalition that got him elected back in 2020, but we've also seen some of the erosion on the Republican side in the suburbs. What about that? And can the former president win back the suburbs, or is that too far gone?
No, absolutely. He's going to compete for all those votes, and he's going to compete in new places. And I'll tell you why. In 2020, Joe Biden was hiding in the basement, and we were told that he was going to be a bipartisan consensus builder of a president. And at the end of the day, after 4 years, unfortunately for him and his side, every single issue set, he is underwater because his presidency has been a failure. People remember it. People remember Donald Trump's presidency. When you lay those two side by side overwhelmingly in the suburbs, in the inner cities, wherever you go in this country, people choose Donald Trump's presidency over Joe Biden's. And that's the albatross around their neck going into the general election campaign. And they're not going to be able to remove it because people are not stupid. They do think the American people are stupid. They're going to forget that they're in misery under Joe Biden. And unfortunately, Donald Trump is going to remind them of that constantly.
And Kevin, to you, polls really haven't been great in the battleground states. How does the president reverse that?
I mean, they haven't been great in that they haven't been accurate. But when we talk about the suburbs, I think it's important to note, I think abortion is such a winning issue for Democrats. And we've seen that over and over again. But you want to talk about a contrast and a side by side. We just saw the president speak 10 minutes ago. He certainly wasn't in the basement. Compare that to Trump calling our fallen soldiers suckers and losers and going after Nikki Haley's husband. I mean, people will remember absolutely the sort of chaos and hate that he brought from the Oval Office. So I do think suburban voters don't have a huge appetite for all that vitriol.
Oh, got to leave it there. Matt Keelan, Kevin Schroff, thanks for joining us this morning. Much appreciated.
Hey, everyone.
So while we may not understand the both sides that are happening, guys, are you better now that Biden is president, or are you worse off? Let us know down in the comments below. There's a lot of big things that have transpired. One of the things that has been frightening, number one, is guess what? They're actually talking about this is one of the most dangerous moments in the U.S. Guys, we've got some big news. Check this out.
All right. You have a piece up on Fox Digital a couple days ago. Biden's open border lets ISIS walk right into the U.S. And I agree with you. I think this is a pretty major problem. The question is, what should we be doing about it?
Well, we have to stop the continued flow. I have no hope of that at this point because the Biden administration is continuing to allow people to enter the country and has been releasing them. What they rely on is they say, well, we vet everyone that's at the border. Well, they can't. Because some of these parts of the world that people come from, we don't have any information about them. We have no databases from there. And so we don't know if they're terrorists or are here to do terrorism. But if you just think about this, right, if it's 9-10 million people, if just a small percentage of them, and they've come from all over the world, just a small percentage of them have been sent here to conduct a terrorist attack, that's a lot of people, and that's a lot of terrorism. So I take the warnings, if you read between the lines what the FBI director has been saying repeatedly now over the last couple months, this is perhaps, if not one of the most dangerous moments domestically in over a decade or longer in the United States, because it's just the sheer number of people that have come in from all over the world that we have no idea who they are, and because we know that ISIS has been in the business of trafficking people to the U.S., meaning charging them to do it. But common sense tells you if they have a business moving people, they would move their own terrorists using that same network.
Yeah, we were talking on last night's show, sir. We were talking about this very subject. There's a lot of people coming in from the Middle East. There's also a lot of people coming in from China. They seem to be able-bodied males. In fact, a whole bunch of Chinese coming in, actually clean-shaven, dressed up with suitcases, walking across the border, essentially unhindered. And nobody knows who they are or where they've gone. And that cannot be a good thing.
Well, look, anytime, this is not immigration, this is mass migration. It's uncontrolled, it's chaotic, and that's not good under any circumstance. But much less when you know that there are groups all over the world, not just from the Middle East, from Central Asia, that have cells of ISIS terrorists and Al-Qaeda terrorists who seek to conduct operations in the United States. So you just put it together. They want to attack America in America. It's easier than ever to get into America and stay. They don't have to worry about being vetted at the border because there's no records of them to check on. Common sense tells you these things all come together and the threat is upon us. I truly believe, and I have reason to believe, and I think we all have reason to believe based on common sense, that in this country right now there are people that are here for the purposes of conducting a terrorist attack. How many? Who knows, but too many.
So, Senator Rubio, there's, continued reports that Joe Biden, after saying he had no executive authority, is now going to come up with some executive order. 4,000 people coming in is okay, but the 4,001st person is not okay, or something like that. Nobody really much believes in it. What's happening with that? Do you know anything else?
Only in the media reports, but what he has to really do in order to fix this problem, he's in a vice. He has to reinstitute the Trump program, which is what he got rid of with his executive orders. He had over 90 executive orders on immigration, basically executive orders telling Border Patrol and DHS not to enforce the law or creating all kinds of exceptions in the law, whether it's parole, whether it's releasing people pending an asylum hearing, allowing people to come in, turn themselves in and go. If you come to this country illegally, cross the border, turn yourselves in, you have an 88% chance of being released into the country. All of that is because of the executive orders that he put in place to repeal the Trump policies.
And you think it's time to now, under a new administration, presumably, it's time to look to deportation. We're going to have to deport, at least we're going to have to deport the criminals. The numbers are so big here. You've changed your view from several years ago. I've changed my view, Senator. I think a lot of people have changed their view about that because the numbers have gotten to be so huge.
Well, I've changed because the issue has changed. The problem has changed. There's a big difference between saying there's 10 or 11 million people that have been here longer than a decade. Some were brought in as kids. They've been here a long time. There's a difference between that and there's those 11 million plus another 15 to 20 more on top of them that have come in since, including 10 million in the last year by the time Joe Biden is done. Okay, in the last 3 years by the time Joe Biden is done. That's a big difference. And so what is it that drives illegal migration? It is perception. If you believe that getting here is easier than it used to be and staying is easier than it used to be, that you have a good chance to get here and a good chance to stay, you're going to come. And that's what's driving people. When Trump was in office, they didn't think it would be easy to get here and they didn't think it would be easy to stay. The numbers went down.
No, got it. Roger that. One last one, Senator. We're going to have some fun on this. Your op-ed in the Washington Post, Why I Believe in Industrial Policy Done Right. I'm probably one of the free market guys that you were criticizing in this piece. So I love the column. Let me ask you something. Suppose I said to you, I agree that our defense industrial base has faltered. I agree with you. And suppose I said to you, I agree that our manufacturing base has faltered and weakened. I mean, my great friend Bob Lighthizer agrees with that. I mean, I think you're absolutely right about that. Then the question is, though, how much government intervention do you really want, Senator Rubio?
Well, I don't know if it's government intervention as much as it is government incentive. We want to incentivize the behavior of bringing things here. And you do that in two ways. One is you put tariffs on foreign imports in these key sectors. Look, I'd like to do it on everything, obviously, but that's not ideal economically. You have to do it on sectors that you've identified as critical to the national interest. And it's not just military gear. It's pharmaceuticals, the ability to make medicine. It's rare earth minerals that the Chinese manipulate all over the world. Our technology, we can't make it if we don't have access to those things. And those rare earth minerals that China has cornered the market on and has grown their control of that market. So these are critical to our national interest. And those are the industries we need to identify and then incentivize. Now, you think in the case of rare earth minerals, the Chinese are subsidizing it. So basically, it is being sold on the global market below the cost of mining it. Okay? There's no way to compete against that unless you yourself have to step in and do something to create a marketplace that people can go into, because who can invest in something where you're going to lose money? Only the Chinese can, because they're subsidizing that industry. So we have to be careful. This can't expand to every business in the world or every industry, but there are some that are critical to our country, and there are some things like that we're going to have to do. And that includes denying entry into a marketplace on these critical for these critical goods and commodities from countries like China that are deliberately manipulating the market as a strategic imperative, not as an economic one.
So I agree with that. I agree with most of that, as far as I understand it. Look, I think unfair trading practices is the catch-all, particularly regarding China, but not only China. The European Union has unfair trading practices also, as I'm sure you know, and we worry about China sneaking through Mexico to dodge the UMCA. But my thought here, Senator, is we don't have, I mean, the Biden spent a fortune, over $1 trillion on the misnamed Inflation Reduction Act and all this crazy climate change that the public, by the way, completely rejects. You see it in poll after poll. We can't spend a lot of money because we got to get inflation down. So my thought to you, sir, is this. Why don't we be vigilant about unfair trading practices, use tariffs where necessary to negotiate, but meanwhile, cut tax rates and cut all the Biden regulations so we would provide incentives for our manufacturing here at home,
right here in the
take
U.S.
the red tape out of the equation. So it would be a combination. Go after unfair trading practices, but let's have some free market incentives on lower tax rates and regulations at home.
100%.
What do you think about that?
100%. No, that's 100% right. I mean, we want to create the incentives to do it here. We want to create a disincentive to bring in things that are unfairly being brought here because they're being subsidized or manipulated, especially from China, on all kinds of industries. And we do want to avoid. So in the Inflation Reduction Act and even in the CHIPS Act, what they're doing is they're taking money and they're basically they're not funding the industrial capacity of the United States. They're funding favored industries that happen to be in the green energy field. And by the way, as a result of it, indirectly funding the Chinese companies, whether it's solar panels or electric cars or what have you. So that is just, they call it inflation reduction, but it doesn't do anything to reduce inflation. It takes government money and spends it in the name of industrial policy. It spends it on pet projects that are part of their broader narrative on climate change and things of that nature. It is not geared towards the national interest. It is geared towards a base of their party.
Well,
that's totally different from what I'm for.
Well, roger that too. See, just in a few minutes here, we've created a whole economic policy white paper just during this short interview. And Senator Rubio, you're a great sport. Thank you for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
What people have yet to understand is while immigrants have come over, and it's not just people from Mexico. It's not just people from like Venezuela. It is Middle Eastern that there's been a lot of ISIS that has come in, and there's honestly what these guys have been saying from the FBI federal agents to these, they're saying they're planning an attack on U.S. soil because it's so easy to cross the border. Why are there so many Chinese coming? When have you ever, how many of you guys will let me know in the comments, have you ever heard of Chinese immigrants coming to the border? Well dressed, clean shaven, with suitcases. Guys, something isn't right. Check this out.
Along the road, migrants walk near the steel fence that marks the border between the United States and Mexico at Sausalito.
Let me just give me 1 second, guys, because some of these we can show, and some of them we can't show. But give me 1 second. So 1 second. Here we go, guys.
So here we are at Eagle Pass. I'm Tony Gonzalez. I'm a local congressman here.
All right, check this out, guys.
So here we are at Eagle Pass. I'm Tony Gonzalez. I'm a local congressman here in the district. Like that's the bridge, and there's like people getting processed, and then they come across on those the trains over there.
Yeah, exactly. It's like an initial intake spot, and then they'll send them through, but it's nonstop all day long.
People just want to understand exactly what's going on, but assume that people do not know what's going on.
Well, you got to go back sometime, and whenever the open border policies from the White House kind of got thrown out there, we've been overrun.
How long ago was that?
What year was that?
2 years ago.
We're on our third year.
We've been battling it for 2 years, and
okay.
So
you're saying there's been an open border policy essentially for the past 2 years?
It was an invitation.
An invitation.
That's how I read it. That's
an invitation.
The White House. So,
okay.
They don't have a clue what's going on here, I don't think, because if they did, maybe they would care. Maybe they would, I don't know.
How does the train impact you? Because the trains have been a big story lately. There's a train just over here. This is kind of where it starts, Elon. Where you see, all these thousands of people on a train. This is where they're coming through, but it doesn't end here. It just starts here. Yeah. Medina County is where they're going to make it to the big.
Look at that, guys. Thousands and thousands and thousands every single day. Where are they going? What cities are they flooding?
Big cities like San Antonio.
Two major rail lines come through my county, and on those the illegals ride. They actually control the trains because they know how to crank down the brake on the car so when it passes a heat sensor, the conductor has to stop the train, the illegals get off, the people come to get them, and all the stolen
Look at that, guys.
From all over the country. Nearly every one of them is in a stolen vehicle.
The fact that we are seeing all-time highs in illegal processing, that ramp is increasing.
Yes.
So these are really important points. Because the public isn't. I think it's not necessarily clear to the public. Is this normal, or are we seeing an accelerating crisis?
It's not getting better. It's getting worse. Last Friday a week ago was a historic number, 11,000 people that came over.
Okay.
And then on Monday, that number increased. Today is Thursday, and that number increased. We're only going in the wrong direction. This is a week. What happens 2 weeks from now? It's the wrong way.
Okay. So basically, we're seeing unprecedented, all-time highs, and increasing.
And spreading. It's not in just one area. It's not just like it's just one city or one town, not even one state anymore. We're talking about New York today, but Chicago, you're hearing it there, LA, Denver. There's all these other places where it's just spreading, just continues to get bubbling up.
And just to quantify it, I think you said 2,000 a day or something, just in this location.
Just here.
So that's like over 700,000 a year.
Just in this one location,
Okay, just 700,000 illegal immigrants a year, just in this one location.
Just in this one location.
Okay.
El Paso, right now in El Paso.
That's higher than the population of Wyoming. FYI.
Yes.
Okay, and that's just one location. What is the total number from all locations roughly?
In the millions. I mean, it's literally millions, and those are just the folks that we know have engaged. What about all the others?
That's just who was actually processed.
Yes, the gotaways are the ones that.
Yeah, so meaning that like the actual number is much higher.
Much higher.
Okay, that's very important for people to know.
Yeah.
That the actual number is much higher. Is the official number something like 2 million or something? Or where is it?
It varies, and it depends on who you ask. But I've seen it as high as 2.6 million. And that number just every year for the past 3 years has almost doubled. It was like 1.1.
It's doubling year
after year. It's compounding year after year because it's not just one part of the world either. It's all parts of the world that are coming. El Paso.
Yeah, I think that's actually an important point to make because sometimes people think, well, people just come from Mexico, but this is not the case.
Not the case at all.
The reality is that this is an open border for all of Earth.
All of Earth.
And just so there's roughly 350 million people in the U.S., but there's 8 billion people on Earth.
Yes.
This is an open border to 8 billion people.
Yes. So what type of nationalities are coming through your county?
We're seeing anywhere from Honduras, El Salvador, I believe Ecuador, stuff like that. Even
it's pretty much every country, right?
Pretty much every country.
Yeah.
It's very rare that we see anybody just from Mexico. So,
it's actually rare to see anyone from Mexico.
And then I'm 68 miles from the border. I'm 80 miles south of here from the Pass.
How big is your workforce? How big is the sheriff's office?
My patrol staff's only 16 strong.
16 total.
Okay.
How many do you have on call at one time?
Maybe 2 at the most.
Two law enforcement officers to tackle. I mean, some of these counties that I represent, they're the size of states. And they've got 2 or 3 people trying to tackle it all. This is where the local community just feel completely overwhelmed. Because Border Patrol agents used to be the front line, and now they're here. They're under the bridge, they're processing folks, so they're completely out of the game. So these law enforcement, the local law enforcement officers are carrying all the weight.
So roughly 2.5 million processed illegals, and then it's maybe as much as twice double that or something. I don't know.
Gotaways, yeah.
Pull it like 4-ish million, maybe 5 million total processed and unprocessed, how many of the 4 or 5 million legal immigrants are sent back to their countries every year?
I'll give you an example. Here in Del Rio sector is one of 9 sectors. Okay, we're getting about 2,500 people coming over illegally a day, and we are repatriating or sending 0 back.
City of 28,000 people. We've had over 19,000 people in the last about 10 days come in. So we don't have the resources.
It's like more people are coming in by far. It's exceeding the population of the town on a regular basis.
Absolutely. This is across the board. I don't care if you're a D or an R, if you vote, don't vote, urban America, rural America, everybody's impacted the same way. When the crisis hits your town, it's like a hurricane. When a hurricane hits you, everybody gets washed out.
Sure.
And it's no different. So I think there's an opportunity here. If we can message it in a manner of, this is about solutions. Hey, I get the finger pointing. It's easy to say why we got here.
How can we keep allowing this to happen?
I'm trying to tell you. I am trying to tell you that I know now there is no program or promise that a president can make that the federal government can come in and wave a wand and do this. Yes, there is legislation in Congress, legislation for cooperation between government, between the private sector.
That was Ronald Reagan back in 1980, taking a deep dive into deep blue New York, helping him actually flip the script and win that state. JFK had his own reversal, winning deep red West Virginia, appealing to coal miners there. And now it's Donald Trump's turn, campaigning in the Bronx and trying to win over a state that has not voted Republican since, you guessed it, Ronald Reagan back in 1984. And like the Gipper and JFK, could Trump actually flip the script? Well, let's ask political reporter Sarah Bedford. Sarah, in politics, obviously, anything is possible. We've learned that.
That's right. And we've seen Donald Trump really grow his support with minority voters, with Hispanic voters, with black voters. In 2020, Joe Biden carried black voters by 92% in the latest Pew Research poll. Joe Biden is only carrying them by 77%. That's a double-digit loss in just 4 years. And we're seeing Donald Trump make those gains, I think, because he's not really speaking to racial groups in the sort of divisive way that you see Democrats address it. He's speaking to the working class, and he's treating all Americans, regardless of their backgrounds, according to class in a way. And so I think that message has really been appealing, that he knows the average American feels like they can't get ahead, that their paycheck isn't covering as much as it used to. And that sort of message is actually a pretty unifying message, and it's one that we're hearing Donald Trump promote more and more, and that's eating into the constituencies that put Joe Biden in the White House.
Speaking of flipping the script, it really does feel, and I'm an economics guy, and I'm sincere when I say I don't know that there's ever been a president who's been better for wealthier people than Joe Biden. The $1.9 trillion, bill that he pushed through, all of that money eventually trickles up to the top 1%. They're paying the college loans off for people who graduating from the American university is a gift. Honestly, it's expensive, more expensive than in the past, but over your lifetime, you make millions of dollars more than someone who didn't go to college. You live better. Your children live better. It really is amazing to me. And to your point, Trump is seizing on that.
Right. A lot of Joe Biden's policies right now are catering to the country's elite, whether that's tax breaks for electric cars, for giving the college debt of people who obtained master's degrees or doctorate degrees or arts degrees. These aren't problems that the working class are really concerned about right now. And to the extent that Joe Biden is talking about the economy, he's just highlighting how good it is. Bidenomics is what everyone should be celebrating right now, according to Joe Biden. And the way the Democrats have framed it is that if you, as an American sitting at home, don't agree that the economy is doing well, then maybe you're just too dumb to understand the economic numbers that show that it is humming along. Donald Trump doesn't speak to Americans like that, and he's not prioritizing elite issues.
Sir, I've got to ask you also, I saw a headline recently with the fundraising That seems to have changed. The tide is changing there as well. And Trump is coming on strong.
That's right. If fundraising is a proxy for enthusiasm, as a lot of political analysts often put it, then Donald Trump is leading by that metric. In April, he raised significantly more money than Joe Biden's political machine. Now, unfortunately, because of all of the lawfare that's been directed at Donald Trump, a lot of the impact of that additional fundraising is blunted by the fact that so much of that money has to go to Donald Trump's legal defenses. But nonetheless, if you're looking at this as a metric of how excited donors are about each respective candidate, I do think that it shows the excitement, the enthusiasm, the momentum at this point is behind Donald Trump. And it's one of many reasons why I think the Democrats are starting to get a little bit more nervous about their prospects in November.
Between that and showing up in the South Bronx, they probably are getting pretty nervous. Sarah, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey,
why do people... They have literally stated the fact that our country definitely is in the worst shape it's ever been. People have seen the amount of illegal immigrants take over schools, hotels, just because they're trying to cater to the immigrants and pass a bill to allow them to vote. Well, who would they vote for? Well, none other than Joe Biden. But at the same time, how can you destroy a country and then try to make it to where people that are not from this country vote to keep you as president when Americans are saying, no, you're destroying our country for the better of people who are not even from this country? Guys, let me know your thoughts down below because this is pretty insane.
Hello, everyone. This is a special edition of Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany, and joining me on the couch this Memorial Day is Fox News contributor and president of American Spirit Enterprises, Tammy Bruce, Fox News medical contributor, Dr. Jeanette Neshwat, journalism professor for the Steamboat Institute and senior fellow for the Independent Women's Forum, Kaylee McGee-White, and Fox News contributor, Joe Concha. Well, today is Memorial Day, and while many are spending this holiday celebrating the unofficial start to summer, it's important to remember what today is all about. It's not about the barbecues, it's not about the beach. This is about remembering those who have lost their lives, fighting to protect our freedoms. On Memorial Day, we honor all of our brave fallen heroes who put on the uniform, not for themselves, but for all of us, because without them, there would be no America. And as we honor these great men and women, we reflect on what America truly stands for and how blessed we are to live in the greatest country in the world. It also reminds us just how critically important it is to pass that patriotism to the next generation. A Wall Street Journal op-ed makes this point, challenging everyone to do just that. Quote, teach your children to love America. It reads, quote, we live in an age, I'll say this part quickly as we all know it, in which children are instructed in 100 different ways through 100 different portals that America is and always was a dark and scheming place. That its history is the history of pushing people around, often in an amoral quest for wealth, but also because we aren't very nice. We never meant it about the Declaration. Parents, help your children love this country. It will be good for them, and more to the point, this country deserves it. Also, when you don't love something, you lose it. We don't want that to happen. You know, Tammy, it's such an important point, and especially in light of a Gallup poll. And I want to put this up. This is a chart of people who feel extremely or very patriotic, and take a look at how it's declined over time. You can see there it once was at a high, about 91%. This was around 9/11, and we've since fallen to 67%, 39% in these categories of being very or extremely proud. It reminds me of Ronald Reagan saying you've got to teach freedom to the next generation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that when we talk about patriotism, it's not that somebody's been manipulated into not being patriotic, but we see our own government. We make judgments about what are the people that we...
How many of you guys would say that our government has really divided America, especially with Joe Biden coming in and literally stating that if you don't vote for me, you're not black? Just statements like that. Well, what does black have to do with voting for Joe Biden? It's not about skin color. It's not about it's not where you're from. No, it's literally, do you agree with his political values, political views, and what he plans to do for the country? If you are Hispanic, Latino, black, doesn't mean you're automatically preset by default to vote for a Democrat. But what that means is that You have your own mind, own value in your opinion and who you are as an American to decide whether you want to vote for this candidate or that candidate. But to be stereotypical, because again, if Donald Trump would have done this, it would have been a disaster. But because Joe Biden, I would guess, is a Democrat, then it's okay to say those stereotypical things. Because again, remember, several people said, well, Donald Trump, we can't like him because he's a Republican and we're Democrat. We're taught not to like them. Why is there so much division? If you kids and people in this country, number one, should love this country. And I think you guys can feel the same way. If you don't love America, then go to another country. If you're not going to fight for our country, if you're not going to stand for that flag, then you don't need to be here, right? Is that kind of what should happen? Let me know in the comments down below, because remember, people have died for that flag, protecting our freedom, protecting our rights. How can we step on the flag? How can we disrespect this country when people have died for that, have sacrificed their life for this country? So let me know down in the comments below what you think about it. But at the same time, it's not based on skin color. And I think social media plays it in a way that it's very dividing, because people understand what we're seeing is not what we're being told. And Joe Biden has made the promises in Bidenomics, inflation reduction. He's going to help everybody, especially of race, of color. And yet again, it's actually worse. Guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for your love and support. Thank you for tuning in on this Memorial Day weekend. We love you. Appreciate you. Thank you to all those that have served, have given their life for that great American flag, this country. We love you. Stay tuned, guys. And we definitely will see you in the next one.